Assumed it was early morning because it was still dark outdoors as I looked outside my window. Oh, well, not so early then. I took a hot water shower. I remembered what Bobby had been blabbering about last night. She wanted to impress that arrogant prince and therefore, she'd be wearing something short and sexy. I did not want to ruin her plans and her love story in progress, so I decided to dress in casuals. I took out a cardigan, a white top, and plain blue jeans. I tied my hair to make a top bun, and I was ready in 10 minutes. I avoided putting on too much makeup today. In fact, though I am not really an anti-makeup girl, I usually wear very little of it. I must have hundreds of different cosmetics from the world's top brands, but I don't really use them. I simply love collecting cosmetics. Although, I have to say, I look good without makeup too, self-acclaimed again, but I didn't want to give competition to Bobby. After all, she wanted to impress Alex. I could see Bobby applying layers of makeup on her face. I really wonder why girls put in so much effort to dress up when they go to meet a guy. They don't even look like themselves anymore. I would never do that. But I guess that's just me. I don't see the sense in wanting to impress boys by applying makeup and wearing short, sexy outfits. And what after that? If you are playing around with a guy, then it is totally fine. But if you are planning on getting married to him, then what's the deal with caking up your skin with chemicals? After getting married, the guy will have to see you and love you for what you originally are, not for what you try to be. I am not against caring for your skin, and applying some amount of makeup is also fine. But mostly, just a pinch of face cream, a dab of lip gloss and powder do just fine. Not just for marriage, but even for boyfriends I don't see the need for all that extra effort. If I have a boyfriend, I will be as normal around him as I am with my family. I wouldn't put on oodles of makeup to look beautiful in front of him, until and unless there's a romantic date planned or a party. Anyway, Bobby took around half an hour to get dressed. She desperately wanted to impress that arrogant man, and tried her best to look perfect, and I think she did succeed to some extent. She was wearing her blue dress, had curled up her hair, and had put on makeup. She was looking pretty. We reached David's mansion at 10 a.m. It was bright and sunny that day, so David was waiting for us in his backyard, which was obviously a huge, green manicured lawn. The setting was perfectly beautiful. White wrought iron chairs and a table with a big flower vase filled with orange gerbera. Scrumptious breakfast dishes were laid out on the table. Bobby sat next to David, while I settled across them. The fourth chair next to me was empty. While I knew that the empty chair was for that arrogant prince, I hoped against hope that he wouldn't be joining us today. Unfortunately, my hopes were dashed. As soon as we sat down, I saw him coming out of the mansion. He seemed to have just showered. His hair was wet and his face looked scrubbed and fresh. He was wearing blue jeans that were the same shade as mine. He wore a loose, grey hoodie with it. And just like rich boys making an entrance in the movies, he, too, was talking on the phone with someone. I wondered if rich people were all a cliché. I turned towards Bobby to see her reaction, and, as expected, she was eyeballing Alex and almost drooling. I leaned towards her, and nudged her and whispered, "Get a grip, Bobby. He is coming towards us." Bobby sighed as she tried to control herself. We tried to act nonchalant, adjusting the napkins and plates as Alex came up to the table. "I hope I am not too late," said Alex as he got seated on the chair beside me. My heart skipped as Alex looked at me and smiled. I caught David looking at me. I gave him a lame smile and picked up the bowl of fruit kept on the table. "No, not at all," Bobby replied chirpily. "So, girls, I forgot to ask yesterday. What are you two doing in Shimla?" asked David, as he swirled his bowl of cornflakes and milk with a spoon. "They must be here for a vacation," Alex replied and grinned. I ignored Alex's words and turned towards David. "Actually, we are here on a work assignment." "College assignment?" David asked. No, it's an office thing," I replied as I poured some honey on my pancake. "Twee is the creative head of Look Around magazine," supplied Bobby, as she helpfully pointed towards me, "and I am her assistant creative director." "That travel magazine?" asked David. "So you've heard of it. We are doing a special edition on Shimla, and we are basically here for recce. We'll be here for a month to explore around and think of possible story ideas on Shimla," I added. Alex was silently having his breakfast. So this is a business trip and you are here to explore Shimla? Asked David. Yes, replied Bobby. David took a sip from his glass of orange juice and turned towards Alex. Alex, my child, why don't you show these young girls around and help them explore Shimla? What? Alex replied, quite stunned. I'm sorry, Grandpa, but I can't, he stammered in reply. But why? David wanted to know. I don't think I am the best person for it. What will I show them? I have been away for too long. I myself don't know this place that well anymore. Well, take them to the famous places then. Show them our apple orchards. I am sure these pretty girls are going to love it. They are doing so much for me, and I would really like to return the favor, said David, as he turned towards us with a big smile on his face. I suppose this is a good way to do it. What say? Before I could respond, Bobby exclaimed, why not? It will be our pleasure to explore Shimla with Alex. I rolled my eyes. So now this arrogant prince was going to accompany us on our Shimla exploration. Not cool. Oh, by the way, sir, I wanted to ask you something about Jasmine, said Bobby. Yes, I wanted to know, when you and Jasmine parted ways, why did you wait for a year to write your first letter to her? Uddharan, pardon, I do not understand what you are trying to say, replied David, confused. In your first letter, which you wrote on Valentine's Day, in 1956, you have written that it has been over a year. So I wanted to know why you waited for a year before you wrote your first letter, explained Bobby. No, my dear, replied David, that wasn't my first letter. We were all silent for a minute. David appeared to be thinking about this particular letter that he had written to Jasmine. Finally, he spoke. We had communicated before the Valentine's Day letter. I had written to her and received replies. But then I never received anything from her after this letter. David took out a very old, yellowish paper from his pocket. Bobby and I marveled at the piece of paper in front of us. We couldn't believe that the last letter written by Jasmine was still in his pocket. One only gets to see love like this in the movies, but now it was right in front of us. Is that the last letter which Jasmine wrote to you? I asked, hesitatingly. David gave a smile and silently handed the sheet over to me. I opened the letter carefully, as it was already in a very fragile condition. The letter said, My dear David, life is so unpredictable. It brings us to certain crossroads where we have to decide what to choose. Right now, I am standing at such a crossroad. I don't know what to do. I really hope I could discuss things with you. But no, this time, I have to take my decisions on my own. I need to tell you something. I have been wanting to tell you since the longest time, but surely this is not the correct moment, as I am still not ready. Maybe somewhere in the future, I will not be scared to discuss things with you, somewhere in the future where we would meet and love each other with our entire souls. Don't break your promise to write to me every time you can. I don't know how many more letters I will be able to write, but I will write as often as I can. And yes, I love you, David. You are the one with whom I want to spend each and every moment of my life. Be in touch. Only yours, Jasmine. She wanted to tell you something. I asked David. It appears so, he replied with a sad smile. But what could that be? Bobby asked, as she folded the letter carefully and gave it back to David. I don't know, he said, forlornly. And this letter was written in 1955, I said. Yes, and Grandpa wrote so many letters after this one, but she did not reply to even a single one, said Alex, his face hot with anger. I think some letters are missing, I said to Bobby. We really need to solve this. I think so too, replied Bobby. All right, you girls, you can take this further in the way you want, but first finish your breakfast, laughed David. I gobbled up everything that was on my plate. This was so far the yummiest breakfast I had ever had. I loved the way they had served a bowl full of fresh strawberries. They were as mouth-watering and delicious as they looked. Alex was busy reading something on his iPad. His nonchalance clearly depicted that he was not at all interested in whatever we were discussing. Soon we were done with breakfast. I wondered what David had in mind for us. Surely he hadn't called us just to have breakfast with him and his arrogant prince. Or maybe he had. I felt quite clueless. As the maids cleared the breakfast table, David smiled and said, Girls, I have planned something for you too. Uddharan. We looked at David, fascinated. I turned towards Alex and he, as usual, rolled his eyes and did not bother to look up from his tablet. What? Bobby asked. Well, Alex is taking you both to our apple orchard. This is the perfect time to visit an orchard. I am sure your girls will love it. Alex finally kept his tablet down and stood up. So shall we go? You mean right now? I said, surprise. He is so unpredictable, I thought. Of course. When do you want to go? Alex replied, snootily. What else could I expect? No, I did not mean that. I replied, as I stood up. Oh, we are ready, Alex, Bobby said cheekily as she adjusted her dress. Both Bobby and David got up. Okay then, have a nice day, said David, as he waved us goodbye. We walked to the car parking where cars of all sizes and shapes were parked. I bet if we were alone, Bobby would have jumped with joy on seeing so many fancy cars in one place. But she had to act cool in front of the arrogant prince. To be very frank, even my eyes were shining with the excitement of seeing so many luxury cars, from Porsche to BMWs, Range Rovers to Volvo, the list just went on. Alex waved to one of the drivers standing there and held up 3 fingers. Bobby and I looked at each other, puzzled. I tried to decode his signal and looked at the cars and counted 1, 2, 3. Gosh, the third car parked in the queue was a Volvo. Oh my God, I cried. I leaned towards Bobby and whispered, Bobby, it is the Volvo V40 Cross Country. Huh, Bobby replied. The third car in the queue is the one in which we are going to ride today. Bobby, it is my dream car. It's the Volvo V40 Cross Country. I couldn't control my excitement and turned to Alex. Are we going in the Volvo V40? Alex gave me a strange look and replied, why? Do you not like that car? Oh no, it's a fab car. Actually, my favorite. Or actually, I should say, it is my dream car, I replied a little bashfully. Alex smirked, nodded his head, and turned around. At that moment, I felt like a stupid teenager who had let her guard down. I felt foolish for expressing my excitement in front of a rich brat whose reaction was condescending. He probably thought that I was going to sit in a luxury car for the first time. Though, that was kind of true. I mean, I had traveled in luxury cars before and owned a Honda City, but this was the Volvo V40. My dream car. But then, how could I expect snooty Alex to understand? Within a moment, my exhilaration was crushed. Bobby was lost in her own fantasy world and therefore did not notice this incident between Alex and me. Actually, I was happy about that. We drove silently for an hour. I was still smarting from Alex's reaction, and Bobby was busy clicking pictures. Mr. Arrogant Prince was busy attending calls on his phone. Suddenly, I wondered if I too was arrogant. Hadn't I been condescending towards Bobby many a times? I was the kind of girl who didn't care about anything or anyone. I hardly gave a hoot as to who was sitting beside me or who was talking about me or what people were thinking. I was pretty self-centered. But today, I met someone who behaved with me in a similar way. Maybe Alex and I shared similar personalities. Maybe, what I thought was a self-centered coolness was actually arrogance. For the first time, I felt bad for all those people with whom I had misbehaved. I felt guilty for how bad all those people must have felt because of my rude behavior. So lost was I in all these thoughts that I did not realize that I was staring at Alex. Suddenly, Bobby elbowed me and I was brought back to my senses. I saw that Alex was looking at me with a blank face. It was an awkward moment. I had been staring at Alex and he had caught me staring. I started looking out of the window to hide my embarrassment. Is all cool? Alex asked. Oh, yes, I am sorry, my mind was elsewhere. I said in a much suppressed voice. I don't know what Alex might have thought of me staring at him like a fool. The car stopped in front of a big gate with a signboard that read, Very Berry Apple Orchard, written in bold on it. The name was quite impressive. Bobby read out the name loudly and said, Cool name. No one responded. The gate was opened and a car moved in. After driving for about 5 more minutes, we stopped in front of a 2-story building. It seemed like a factory area or a storage house. We stepped out of the car. A tall, middle-aged man came running towards us. Good morning, sir, the man greeted Alex. Alex gave a curt nod and smiled. The man then turned towards us and said, Good morning. We smiled and greeted him. An early visit today, sir, asked the man, as we started moving towards the building. Yeah, these girls have never seen an apple orchard, so Grandpa told me to show them around, Alex replied. So these are your friends? Asked the man. Oh, no, they are Grandpa's friends, said Alex, and started laughing. What was so funny, I thought, but for the first time, I saw him laughing. And to tell you frankly, he looked weird. Alex went to the office and got seated. He asked the man, who he called Kaka, to show us around. We went along with Kaka to explore the orchard. We saw the big storage area, cleaning area, and packing area. Kaka then took us to the main apple orchard. There were numerous apple trees with juicy, red apples on them. Bobby and I tried our hands at plucking the apples from the trees. Some of the trees were not too tall, and we could easily pick apples from those. We kept all the apples we picked in baskets of the workers working nearby. We hung about in the orchards for around 2 hours. It was a lot of fun as we played around, clicked pictures, spoke to the workers along with Kaka, and ate freshly picked apples. We returned to the building and headed to the office. As we entered, we were surprised to see that Alex was sleeping in the cabin. We knocked on the door repeatedly, but Alex did not wake up. Finally, I banged hard at the door, which, at last, broke Alex's sleep. What the? Don't you guys have any etiquette? Alex said angrily, as he put his legs down from the table and stood up. What? I replied. I knew he was an arrogant grouch, but I had not expected him to snap at us like that. He was getting on my nerves. After all, we had been knocking on the door for a while, waiting for His Majesty to wake up. Yes, did you not see that I was taking a nap? How dare you wake me up like this? Alex screamed. Excuse me, I was shocked. You girls think I play around the entire day. I have work to do. I was telling Grandpa to not make me waste my time in accompanying you too. But Grandpa, Alex yelled as he rubbed his forehead. Enough, I interrupted. I don't understand what your problem is. You are high on arrogance. We were just having some fun. And this plan was made by your grandpa. If you were not interested, then you should have said so earlier. Why take it out on us? You talk about etiquette. Then let me tell you, you don't have the basic etiquette to talk to people. We are here for a purpose. And when we came to know about your grandpa's past, we felt sorry for him and thought of helping him. And let me clear one thing. If you are not interested to show us around, we also are not interested in having you as our companion to explore Shimla. You don't smile, you don't talk properly. I mean, you are the worst company ever. Thanks a lot for your time. Goodbye. I grabbed Bobby's hand and strode off. Wait, we heard Alex's voice as we climbed down the stairs. Hey, listen, wait. He came running after us and tried to stop us. I wheeled around. Listen, Alex, we really don't want to waste any more time. It's better that we leave now. And please, you don't need to help us in finding Jasmine either. We are capable enough to do that, I said, and walked away. Bobby and I were walking down the road when the Volvo stopped beside us. I was prepared to scream some more at Alex, but there was only the driver inside. He requested us to sit inside the car as the place was 45 kilometers away from Shimla city and it was unsafe for us to try and walk the distance. Bobby and I got into the car. An hour later, we were back at our flat. I was still angry. Bobby, I don't think he is worth it. You should not think about him too much, I said to Bobby, as I pulled off my boots and jeans. You're right, Bobby replied in a very sad tone. Even she was disappointed with Alex's behavior. She seemed heartbroken. I got into my pajamas and asked Bobby to order something from a nearby shop for lunch. After lunch, I took a nap for 2 hours. In the evening, we took a walk around the main city. I had cooled off by then. After coming back from the walk, we sent a short report to Anita about what we had explored and seen in the past 2 days. This included our meeting with David, one of the richest personalities in Shimla, and our visit to his apple orchard. After the argument with Alex, we both felt a bit low. We felt insulted. Alex shouldn't have behaved in such a way. We decided that we would not seek any help from Alex and would convey this to David whenever we met him next. After sending the report, we had a light dinner and went off to sleep early, trying to end the horrible day. He is not that bad. Good morning, Twee. Wake up, Twee, I have something to show you. Seriously, Bobby was disturbing my sleep again. Yesterday, I woke up to a big bouquet of flowers sent by David. Perhaps he had sent something like that for us again. That would explain why Bobby was screaming away early in the morning, trying to wake me up. Let me sleep, Bobby. I am not interested, I said as I turned and covered my face with the quilt. Twee, you've got to see this. Please wake up, Bobby insisted. Quit bugging me, Bobby. What do you want? I said as I got up. I saw Bobby standing with a big bunch of white morning glory flowers. What's the big deal, Bobby? So, David has sent flowers again. So what? I said as I tied my hair. Wait till you see this, Twee. You've got to come with me right now, Bobby said as she grabbed my hand and pulled me towards her. I got up from the bed, wore my slippers, and followed her to the living room. Someone was sitting on the couch. I couldn't see his face. Who's that? I asked Bobby. The guy turned at the sound of my voice. It was Alex. You, I cried. Good morning, said Alex, with a smile. Can you believe that? He was actually smiling. To say that I was surprised to see him in our flat, that too with flowers, would be an understatement. Could it be that he was at our place to apologize for yesterday's behavior? I chose not to reply to his greeting, and walked off towards the balcony. I did not want to talk to that arrogant guy. He was inconsiderate and rude. I did not want to ruin my day before it had even started. Twisha, said Bobby, as she came near me. He is feeling apologetic and that is why he is there. Bingo. So, I was right. A part of me wanted to forgive him for his behavior and move on, but another part of me, which was controlled by my ego, wasn't allowing me to listen to anything he had to say. I remained silent. I was skeptical. Let me get some coffee, said Bobby, and disappeared into the kitchen. I felt Alex approaching me. His sneakers made a soft sound when he walked towards me. Oh, well, Alex stuttered. Whatever happened yesterday? Well, you know what I am trying to say. I didn't reply and continued to look away. Twisha, I am kind of feeling bad, so, wanted to say. Alex paused for a second. I don't know what happened to me. I turned around and said, it's okay, Alex. My anger had gone, even without listening to his sorry. I had wanted so badly for that arrogant boy to apologize for his behavior, but even before hearing his apology, I forgave him. I was not interested in seeing him grovel anymore. A bit puzzled by my own reaction, I walked towards the couch and sat down. Twisha, Alex followed me and sat beside me. I did not want to hurt you girls. I have already apologized to Bobby, too. Actually, I don't have any friends and I barely talk to girls. I am not so good at it. Yesterday, when I narrated the whole incident to Grandpa, he made me realize my mistake. Though I was already feeling bad after the whole incident, Bobby came back with coffee for both of us. I took my mug and took a sip while Alex kept his on the table. See, Bobby has already forgiven me. But she told me that you are really hard to convince. But please give me a chance. I will prove that I am not a rich, spoiled brat. Alex looked cute, and the way he was trying to convince me to forgive him made him look cuter. I wish Bobby didn't have a crush on him. I could feel myself slowly getting attracted to him. I replied without looking at him. I was still wondering why I had forgiven him without making him beg and plead. Seriously, what was wrong with me? I had always loved it when people bowed in front of me and now I had willingly given up the chance to make this arrogant prince eat humble pie. You must give me a chance to make up for my bad behavior. Today, I will take you both on a tour of Shimla. I am sure you are going to love it, said Alex. His tone clearly indicated that he was feeling guilty, but I did not want to give him much attention or discuss the matter with him. I decided the best way would be to simply go with him. We got ourselves ready for the day, took our essentials like camera, handbags, etc. and were ready to go. On seeing us come out of the flat, the driver immediately stepped out of the car and opened the door for us. Alex gave the driver some money and said, "You take a rickshaw and go home. I will drive today." The driver happily took the money and went on his way. Alex looked at me and then towards the front door of the car. I felt he was trying to give me a sign that I should sit on the front seat. Alex said, "Please be seated, ladies. I will be driving today." Can I sit in front? Bobby asked, before I could say anything. Alex sighed and replied, yes, sure. He went over to the driver's seat. As he turned on the radio, Jagjit Singh's voice filled the car. It was one of my favorite ghazals. आपके दिल ने हमें आवाज दी, हम आ गए. TCH, please change this radio station. I hate these boring songs, Bobby declared. Alex replied, oh, actually, I like listening to them. And I thought maybe you like them, too. He was about to change the track, when I exclaimed, wait. Bobby, even I love this ghazal. Then I looked towards Alex and said, don't change the station. Alex simply smiled and continued to drive without saying anything. How boring, twee, Bobby replied. Alex, yes, don't you have some rocking Honey Singh songs? I am sorry, I don't listen to such songs, replied Alex. Then what kind of songs do you listen to? Asked Bobby. Either English country music or jazz or Hindi ghazals. Actually, I hardly get time to listen to songs. So, whenever I get a chance, I try to listen to soothing and soft music, said Alex to Bobby. He then adjusted the rear view mirror and said, and you, Twisha? I was looking out of the window. On hearing my name, I first looked towards Alex, and then at the rear view mirror where our eyes met. Yes, I asked, which songs do you love to hear? Well, I like, actually, my case is similar to yours. I hardly get time to listen to songs. But whenever I do, I listen to old Bollywood songs or ghazals, I replied. Alex looked pleased and launched into an animated discussion over his favorite songs and so on. Bobby continued to roll her eyes and make faces. She was probably feeling left out. Of course, since Alex and I were discussing songs that she found boring. Alex told me how much he loved Kishore Kumar and Mohammad Rafi songs. It turned out that we both like mostly the same songs. Hilt Hai Gul Yahan and O Mere Dil Ke Chain were our favorites. I was so happy to know that Alex and I had the same choice in music. The best kind of connections are made when you share the same choice in music. The entire way, Alex and I kept discussing songs and lyrics. At times, I felt that Bobby was feeling left out, so I tried to involve her in the conversation. But even though she put in an effort to contribute to the conversation, she couldn't, as she had hardly heard any of these old, romantic Bollywood songs. We reached a big marketplace after half an hour. It was a really cold day and the place wasn't too crowded. After parking the car, we all stepped out. Alex said, come, and started walking. Bobby and I followed. Bobby, I whispered in her ears as we walked. Yeah, she whispered back. Think again. Alex loves listening to songs which you find boring. If you end up with him, you will have to bear his boring songs, too, I joked, as we both giggled. What happened? Alex said, as he stopped and turned around. Nothing, I replied, looking straight into Alex's eyes and trying to control my laughter. Bad idea. Our 2-second eye contact made my soul twirl. Alright, so, here's presenting to you the Ridge of Shimla, said Alex, as he shifted 2 steps towards the right, giving us a good look at the view. Wow, I exclaimed. I had never seen such natural beauty. It was a panoramic view of beautiful, snow-covered mountain peaks of Shimla. It was breathtaking. This is phenomenal, I exclaimed again. OMG, OMG, Bobby exclaimed. This is superb, Alex. I am glad you like it, replied Alex with a proud smile on his face. Bobby and I went about clicking pictures for the next 20 minutes. We then walked along the railing and took in the magnificent view. You are lucky. Not everyone experiences this magical view, said Alex. Why? Asked Bobby. During the peak season, you cannot stand here. It is overcrowded with tourists from all across the world. But I love this place when it is empty, Alex explained, pointing towards the scenic beauty of Shimla. Aha, I can see why. This place is worth loving, Alex, I replied, as I took a deep breath and looked towards the snow-covered peaks. After walking for 10 minutes, we reached an old bistro. We decided to sit there for some time and have something to eat. We ordered coffee, along with some grilled vegetable sandwiches. Bobby wanted to click more selfies against the spectacular backdrop. Call me when the order is here. I can't sit here. I am going to click more pictures, she announced, as she went back to the viewpoint. Alex and I were left alone. It was a weird feeling. I tried to think of things to say, but nothing came to my mind. Awkward. We looked at each other several times and smiled. Twisha. Alex finally broke the silence. I hope you have forgiven me. I shook my head, smiled, and said, yeah. Actually, Udharan, no need to explain, Alex. I really don't want to think about it anymore. It's all good. I stopped Alex before he could start explaining the whole story again. He smiled. Ma'am, sir, your order, said the waiter, as he interrupted our game of You Smile I Smile. I looked around for Bobby, but couldn't see her. I called her on her phone, but that, too, was not reachable. Where was this girl? I was starving. I decided to not wait for Bobby. Maybe we should start eating. I don't know where Bobby is and I am famished, I said. Okay, so, can I ask you something? I said, sipping my coffee. Alex nodded. Have you ever been in love? No, why not? It might sound strange to you, but I hate love. That sounded kind of like me. I should have felt happy, but I don't know why. I felt a bit disappointed. And why is that? I tried to investigate. Being in love makes people selfish. And women, I am sorry to say, but women are selfish. They don't care for the feelings of men, Alex said. How can you say that? I was not at all happy to hear his words. This is what I have experienced. Take Jasmine, for instance. She was selfish. She did not bother to reply or inform Grandpa even once. My mom, she is always fighting with my dad. And she only thinks of her luxury. She hardly cares for Grandpa and his sentiments. These were the closest examples I could give. I really hate love. At first, it feels like heaven, but afterwards, you will not know when you become selfish. I chose to remain silent. Alex seemed upset. Alex, I did not want to upset you. I was just asking. I tried to lighten his mood. Alex took a deep breath and replied, yeah, I know. Hey, guys, I am back. We heard Bobby's overtly chirpy voice. I really wanted to talk to Alex alone for a while. Alex cheered up and said, there you are. We were trying to call you, Bobby. See, your hot coffee has become cold coffee. Both of them giggled. This sudden change in Alex's behavior surprised me. I guess it just showed that David's family mastered in the art of hiding emotions. I couldn't help but think about what he had said. I wanted to prove Alex wrong. Not all women are selfish. We finished at the bistro and resumed our Shimla tour. We went to the Christ Church, the local market, the Mall Road. Our tour ended with a view of the sunset from the ridge. Yes, on Bobby's demand, we were back at the ridge of Shimla to witness the sunset. Alex then escorted us back to our flat. Bobby opened the door and rushed to the washroom. I turned to Alex and smiled. So, I said, well, I wanted to say something, Twisha. Of course. Go ahead, I replied. Actually, said Alex, hesitatingly, please don't mind what I'm about to tell you. And I think you will find it weird, but my grandpa is trying to hook me up with you. What? I was surprised. Actually, I wasn't really surprised. I had sort of realized this when Alex told me that David convinced him to visit my place and apologize for his bad behavior. See, I think he really sees Jasmine in you. He seems to think you are perfect for me. Alex was blushing. Really, I replied, pretending to look shocked. And you, I mean, you know my thoughts about love and all. Alex seemed really uneasy. Don't worry, Alex. There's nothing like that from my side either. I replied with an understanding smile. Okay then. The day was good. I hope you enjoyed. Alex's expressions changed quickly. I felt as if he was upset, but covered up masterfully. I couldn't be sure. Yeah, I replied. Good night, he said, as he walked towards the door. Good night, I replied. I closed the door softly after him. I rushed to the window to see him leave. After a few seconds, I saw him coming out of the building. He was slowly moving towards his car. Suddenly, he looked up, towards the window. I instinctively turned around, embarrassed at having been caught. Almost immediately, I realized how rude it must seem. I turned back and saw him looking up. I guess he had seen me at the window. He smiled and waved at me, and, in return, I smiled and waved him goodbye. He slid into his car and drove away. That night, I couldn't get my mind off the things he had said about women and love. I kept thinking about why he was blaming Jasmine when he did not even know what had actually happened. My curiosity about Jasmine and her side of the story increased. After all, why would a girl who loved someone so much behave like this? And what bugged me the most was what David had told us that day at breakfast. Jasmine had wanted to tell him something. With all these thoughts swirling in my mind, I don't know when I fell asleep. An unofficial date the following morning, the sound of a continuous stream of sneezes woke me up. I came out of the room and saw Bobby sitting on the couch with a big hanky in her hands. Her nose was red and her eyes swollen. "Oh God, Bobby, are you alright?" I asked. "Yeah, kind of," she replied. "Anchu." Bobby sneezed and mumbled, "Actually not. You, poor girl, let me get some medicines for you. You just stay here and take care. I'll be back in 10 minutes, I said to Bobby, as I wrapped myself in a Kashmiri stole. I was still in my night suit, but on seeing Bobby's bad condition, I couldn't think of wasting time in getting dressed properly. I rushed to my room, took out some money, ran out of the room and slammed the door behind me. I came out of the apartment premises and looked around. I had no idea where the medical store was. I started walking alongside the stone boundary wall and suddenly somebody kept a hand on my shoulder. "Whoa," I exclaimed, as I turned around and saw Alex. "Alex, you, hey, Twisha, where are you going so early? That too in these clothes?" Alex asked, as he shrugged and folded his arms across his chest. "Alex, what are you doing here?" I asked, clearly surprised to see him this early. Just like that," Alex shrugged. "Actually, Bobby has fallen sick. I am going to get some medicines for her," I replied. "Don't you know that all the shops in this area are closed due to some shop owners association protest?" "Don't you read the newspaper?" replied Alex. "I didn't know that. But Bobby is sick. I need to get medicines for her," I repeated. "Okay, relax. Come with me. I'll take you to the market nearby," Alex said as he pointed towards his car. I readily hopped into his car. Just a 5-minute drive later, we reached a small medical store. I bought medicines for Bobby and we returned to the flat. "Alex," Bobby exclaimed in a hoarse, weak voice as she saw Alex and me entering the house. "Yeah, Bobby, my sixth sense told me that you were unwell. That is why I decided to come and meet you, honey," Alex replied in a flirtatious tone. Bobby smiled and shook her head. I smiled, as I knew Alex wanted to make Bobby feel good and pampered. I gave Bobby her medicines and sat with her. And the best part of my sixth sense is that I got to see the two most beautiful girls in Shimla without makeup. Alex continued, as he giggled. Bobby was giggling, too. I couldn't stop smiling on hearing what Alex said. I felt happy that Alex was trying to lighten up our mood and divert Bobby's attention from her sickness. It made him seem kind and considerate, unlike the arrogant prince I had thought him to be. "So, how come you are here?" I asked Alex. "Actually, I had come to take you girls on day 2 of our Shimla tour," replied Alex, hesitatingly. "But I can understand. Bobby needs to take rest. We'll plan for another day." "Oh no, don't cancel," exclaimed Bobby. "I'll be fine by myself. You two go. We can't waste our days like this." "No, Bobby, I'll stay with you. We can always go when you recover," I replied. "That's not necessary," Twee said Bobby. She turned towards Alex. "You and Twee go. I'll be fine. I really need this me time today. And if Twee is around, she'd be asking me about my health after every single sneeze and cough." Bobby smiled. "Are you sure?" Alex confirmed. "I am. 100%, replied Bobby, with a massive sneeze. "I don't think that's a great idea," I said to Alex, as I turned towards Bobby. "I am not leaving you like this, Bobby. You are not well. How can I leave you alone for the entire day?" "I agree. The plan was to go to Kufri today. It'll take all day. We can't leave you like this," Alex said. "No chance. You guys go. Yana G is here. I'll call her if I need anything," replied Bobby. "Don't forget to click pictures." "Alright," I finally agreed half-heartedly. I went to my room to get dressed. I could hear Alex and Bobby's conversation from the living room. Bobby was trying to flirt with Alex by saying that just because she was allowing Alex to go alone with me did not mean that he should flirt with me. In return, Alex was laughing and humoring Bobby by saying that he would remain loyal to her. Though I knew they were joking around, Alex's words still pinched me. However, I was happy to see this side of Alex where he cared about others and tried to make them smile. I was ready in 20 minutes. I had again slipped into my favorite blue denims, black tee and a blazer, with knee-high boots. After making sure that Bobby had whatever she may need, medicines, hot water bag, phone, charger, laptop, fruit, Alex and I bid her goodbye and left for our trip. I was feeling a bit strange about going out alone with Alex for the whole day. I have never been on a day-long tour with any guy alone. It might sound weird, but it is the truth. I can't tolerate guys for more than 2 hours, max. We were on our way to Kufri. Alex told me that Kufri was 16 kilometers away from Shimla, and that it was a small town. We would get to see many snow-covered peaks and we could try skiing. I was silent. My mind was wandering somewhere else. So, we can now freely play old songs, said Alex suddenly. Maybe he could tell that I was not really paying attention to his speech about Kufri. Why, I replied, Bobby hates these songs. Since she is not here and we like these songs, we can play them, explained Alex. Yeah, I replied, giving him a smile. Alex turned on the player. Karwat Badal Hai, the song from the movie Aapki Kasam started playing. Do you like this song? Asked Alex. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Why, look at your face, Twisha. You seem least interested. What is bothering you? Aren't you feeling well? Asked Alex as he turned off the player. I was just thinking about Bobby. She is alone and sick. I can't enjoy like this, I replied. I understand, Twisha, but Bobby herself told me that she lives alone in Bangalore. She is good at managing situations like these. If she said that she'll be able to take care of herself, then we ought to believe her. She is an adult, and we can't ruin our day because of this. So cheer up, said Alex, as he smiled. And you know what? You look good when you make weird faces and roll your eyes with attitude. My mood instantly took a U-turn and I started laughing. I was feeling better and light. So, why did you stop playing that song? You know, it is one of my favorites, I replied, as I turned the player on. Good to see you're back on track, Twisha, exclaimed Alex as he pulled my right cheek with his left hand. Hey, what are you doing? Leave me, I exclaimed, as I moved my face away. I was blushing. I started looking out of the window. Alex's touch had made my heart go thumping and pumping. I felt weirdly happy and wanted to do a hubba hubba dance at that moment. I wanted to run with joy as fast as I could. I wanted to shout my name so loudly that each and every person on this planet could hear it. While my heart was bursting with joy, my mind cautioned me to control my feelings. But at that moment, I didn't want to think of anything else. I was happy, and I wanted to enjoy it. I opened the window and snuck out my head and spread my left hand to feel the air. It was heavenly. I closed my eyes to feel the blast of the fresh and chilly wind on my face. When I opened my eyes, I was facing a fascinating and marvelous view, snow-covered mountains. We were going up a winding path. On one side was snow-covered mountains, and on the other was a deep and beautiful valley. Luckily, I was sitting on the side of the snow. I wished I could touch it. Madam, said Alex. I turned to him. What? Please keep your head and hands inside and sit back. It's not safe. You might end up hurting yourself. I settled back into the car. I touched my nose. It seemed as if it was frozen. Alex, I said. I think I froze my nose. I said, pointing towards my nose. Alex laughed and braked the car. What? I exclaimed. Look in front. Alex smiled. Oh, wow. I was stunned. The view in front of me was more than breathtaking. We had reached the dead end of the road and there was a tall and magnificent snow peak up ahead. Welcome to Kufri, Madam Twisha. I got out of the car and took a 360-degree turn to look at the whole place. It was truly magnificent. There were small tea and snack stalls on the other side of the road. There was a long barricade beyond which no vehicles and shops were allowed. Only tourists were allowed to walk across the barricade and play in the snow. Alex parked the car and asked, So, do you want to go skiing? No. Ice climbing? Nah. Ice rappelling? Nay. Snow sledging? No. Ha ha ha. You know so many different versions of no, Alex giggled. Yeah, I giggled, too. So what do you want to do? Let's walk, I smiled as I looked straight into Alex's eyes. He smiled back at me, warming my heart. After a moment, I realized that we had both been looking into each other's eyes for a while. I looked away and started walking. I have never walked on snow, I said. I glanced at Alex and realized he was blushing. He scratched his head and gave the cutest smile ever. I continued walking as Alex went to a less crowded shop alongside the road to rent 2 pairs of gumboots. Tourists were not allowed to step across the barricading without gumboots, so we had to rent a pair each for us. Yellow for me, I shouted, as I saw Alex picking up 2 pairs of black boots. We kept our footwear with the shopkeeper and wore the gumboots. Now, I had no idea that gumboots could be so sticky. Of course, they were made of rubber. They ought to be sticky. But I hadn't imagined that the boots would make me slip on the snow. I took my first step on the snow, and thump! I slipped and was lying on the road. Ah! I shouted. I didn't know snow could hurt that much. Wasn't snow supposed to be soft? Everybody around me started laughing, including Alex. He offered me his hand. No, thanks, I'll manage, I replied as I carefully got up. I was feeling a bit embarrassed and a bit angry with Alex. Instead of helping me out, he had joined all the other people around in giggling, laughing and making fun of me. I slowly started moving on the ice. It was very slippery. Hey, listen, don't be angry. Alex followed me. I really don't need your help, I pretended to be angry. You'll fall, Twisha, Alex seemed worried. Thump, there was a loud sound of someone falling down. I turned back to see that it was Alex. I ran back to help him up but then stopped. Poor guy, you are going to help me. I laughed. He got up, dusted off the snow from his trousers, and said, okay. Now it is equal. Is it fine now? We both laughed. We started walking on the snow slowly. I wasn't able to walk properly. Alex, too, was having a tough time. He offered his hand without saying a word, and I caught hold of it instantly. A thrilling wave ran through my entire body. We decided to start walking uphill. After about an hour of climbing, we reached the top of the cliff. The wind was blowing soothingly. I felt like I was on top of the world. Want to try something crazy? Alex raised his left brow and asked. What? Take off your shoes. What? Are you mad? No way, I replied. Had he lost his mind? Seaman, I bet you won't forget this moment ever in your life. Just take off your shoes. Alex tried to convince me. Alex, you are mad. Yes, I am. Now will you do as I ask? Alex was adamant. We'll freeze. I'll die, I cried. Haha, don't worry, nothing will happen. I promise I won't let you die alone. Alex was smiling. No, no, no. Take them off, or else I am going to fill your gumboots with snow, said Alex, as he picked up a handful of snow from the ground and started making a snowball. You can't do this to me. I turned around and struggled to walk away as fast as I could. I can, dear, I can. Alex replied in a mischievous voice as he followed me. He then pointed at my shoes and threw a big snowball towards me. Oh God, his aim was so perfect. There was snow inside my boots now. Oh my God, I started shouting, as I took off my shoes. My feet were freezing. After just a second of standing bare feet, I was literally hopping and jumping because of the snow. Alex immediately took off his shoes too and threw them where mine lay. He grabbed my hand and started walking at a fast pace. Oh my God, Alex, I can't walk. I was hopping like a frog. Let's run, then, Alex said, as he started running and made me run as well. He didn't leave my hand. It felt weird for a bit, but then I started enjoying it. It was crazy. The two of us were running on freaking cold snow, barefoot. I was enjoying it, and Alex was laughing. We reached the echo point of the peak. The place hardly had anyone. It was deserted. Come on, Twisha, shout your name, Alex said, trying to catch a breath. I took few deep breaths, stood with a hand on my knees and said, wait. Let me breathe. Alex left my hand, stepped ahead, and screamed, Twishaara. I felt the world had stopped. I couldn't hear any other voice, except my name echoing around about 7 times. It was a surreal moment. I forgot everything. Where I was, why I was there, where I lived, why I was standing on snow barefooted, everything. All I could see and sense was Alex and his voice. I stood stunned. Alex turned back to me and said, try. I couldn't say anything. I had never experienced such a thing in my life. I had always lived in Bangalore. I had a regular 9 to 5 job, with occasional outdoor projects. I had been to various hill stations, but had never before experienced such moments in my life. Alex, I said, looking straight into his grey eyes, thank you. You are most welcome. Alex again shouted on the top of his voice, and this time, I decided to join him. I shouted. My voice echoed only thrice. Yes, TWISHAAA. Alex replied. I like YOUUUU. I screamed, without giving a second thought to what I was saying. It just came out. Now that's what you call going with the flow of overwhelming emotions. The moment I had said it, I mentally kicked myself, but the reply was unexpected. I like you, TOOOO. Alex replied. At that moment, all I could hear was Alex's voice. I felt like I had heard it a million times.